For online content creators, the unavoidable subject matter of 2023 has been Sissa Sniper Wolf, whether they're looking at her criminal history, some other things she's done, or her past channel history. But realistically, the conversation goes far beyond that. It goes into reaction content, what it means to be transformative, and everything else in between. And that's what I really want to get into, the nitty and gritty of today, reaction content. It's 2005. YouTube had just been made, and its first video was me at the zoo, where it showed someone at the zoo enjoying themselves and posted it on YouTube for the world to see, which is what it was originally for, being able to share good times with the world to see and enjoy them together. Now, as early as 2006, the platform had already been running into issues. These issues were copyright issues, where people would post content that violated it, like entire TV shows. And to prevent this from happening, YouTube restricted the length of an upload down. Now, in 2010, they were finally allowing 10-minute videos because they've been able to detect these violations much easier. And as this detection has gotten better, longer and longer videos have been able to posted long enough so you can make 2-hour videos about the oof sound from Messiah. Now, there are still copyright violations going on that many YouTubers have argued about. And the thing they're arguing about is reaction content, more or less. Some are arguing about specific people, usually XQC or Sissa Sniper Wolf. But before we dig into that, it's really important that we define what reaction content is. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this topic, I do want to mention, be nice in the comments section, on the platform, off the platform, and in real life. Some people have not handled this criticism particularly well, and I will be naming a lot of big name YouTubers here, so please be polite. I don't mean any ill intent, no malice here. And without any further ado, let's get into this educational content. When talking about anything, it is important to define any key terms so that every person involved uses the same concept. This prevents people from misunderstanding one another or talking past each other. The first definition I was able to gather was from the site called Podcastle Team. I thought it was pretty interesting, so I was going to include it. A reaction video is simply a video where a vlogger or host watches and reacts to an existing piece of content. This can be a YouTube video, a piece of music, a movie trailer, or a scene from a television show. Usually, the person making the reaction video will provide commentary and share their thoughts and opinions as they watch the content for the first time. Now, there's a couple weird, interesting things I thought about. For the first time, some channels pointedly do it in multiple takes to see which one's the best so that the video does the best and you can get the best reaction out of them. Some people have already seen it before and they just want to dissect it and react to it, which I found pretty interesting, but it also talks about groups and specifically mentions YouTube as one of the main sites for this to occur. Now, the next definition, before we start really comparing these, I want to go through is the wiki one. Pretty standard one to look at, so let's see what Wikipedia has to say. A reaction video is a video in which a person or multiple people react to something. Videos showing the emotional reactions of people viewing television series episodes, film trailers, and music videos are numerous and popular on video hosting services such as YouTube. The depicted persons may or may not be aware that they are being recorded. In some cases, the video to which people react is shown within the reaction video, allowing the reaction video's viewers to see what is being reacted to. So what I think it's trying to say there at the end is half the screen might be like the TikTok, and the other half might be the person watching it, so you can see the reaction at the same time. I felt like this is also pretty standard, but I wanted a nice third definition to round us off, and I found that Cambridge had one, and it's super sweet here, so I don't have to read an essay for a definition. They simply claim a video of someone reacting to something, especially one posted on social media. Plain and simple. Now, I think all three of these are valid. However, when you stop to examine some of the most popular content creators like XQC, Sissa Sniper Wolf, and Reaction Time, you notice there are a subset of these reaction videos where they're within these definitions, but in a much more narrow scope than this more broad term here, where they take a short form content you might not otherwise find and then compile it into something and then react to it. Everyone knows about the next Disney movie trailer. It's advertised and a lot of people are going to see it and it's going to get talked about, but not everyone knows your TikTok. Not everyone sees it. There's a lot of content on that platform. That's why discovery queues and other stuff like that is on these platforms, because there's just so much. So this led me to my own definition, which is pretty short and simple. It is a curated meme or meme-like content one might find well on social media in lieu of a meme page. And there's a couple of reasons why I want to use this definition rather than the Wikipedia one or the Cambridge one, because of that subset. And I think the best way to describe this is by kind of looking at some of the most successful channels on YouTube. The most successful ones have millions, if not tens of millions of subscribers and followers. And when you look at these people and their style of content, you start to see different patterns here. And to get what I'm talking about, Apologia is not in the tens of millions of subscribers. Apologia is an agnostic YouTuber who covers Christian claims, reacts to a variety of videos, and other forms of content from content creators. Sometimes it'll be like Ken Ham on his show. Sometimes there's some like radio content as well. But he sits there and he talks about it. And sometimes we'll bring in guests and edit them in his own unique cartoon animation style, which I think is really nice as you transform the content in this manner. Now, when you look at this style of content and immediately go over to a Sissa Sniper Wolf or XQC or any of these other major channels that follows my definition, you see a very big difference. It's you watch the TikTok together and then post the TikTok or other medium content that they're reacting to. Then you get the reaction, you get a nice laugh, a giggle, and then it usually moves on to the next one. Sometimes they'll play it a second time, but most of the time it's going to be followed up by that. You don't get this when you look at like Apologia, who sits there, pauses for minutes in between it, talks about the content, what they think about, what they're claiming, brings up research, like I said, with some scholarly content. And you might say, wait a minute, that's educational content, not reaction content. Well, things can be more than one thing at once. You know, you could be a tall human and have blonde hair. So you could be tall and blonde. You could be more than one thing at once. And it still applies, right? They're an educational and reaction content. This would also big issues with Legal Eagle and Dr. Mike, who cover legal and medical reactions to shows like Better Call Saul for Legal Eagle, and then some of those medical shows that you see. Dr. Mike also watches and reacts to those as well. And these channels wouldn't follow my definition because there's a more transformative nature to it, and it's not this meme-like content, although you could argue Better Call Saul has a meme following, but that's like a divestiture of what that is. It's something kind of different. That's the meme versus the actual show. Now, to make this more clear with a visual medium, as this is kind of important to the context, I can talk about it as much as I want, but showing this, I think, is going to be pretty important here. So let's look at Saberspark, who's a YouTuber who watches movies, shorts, and other media, some of it more popular, some of it lesser known. They make a video talking about a lot of these, but they also sometimes include some of their live stream Twitch reaction content. For example, in the video, did AI make this Family Guy ripoff? They show some of the reactions from the stream, and here's a short little clip of that.
Character waking up and getting up. Anna.
Oh my god. Jeez
Damn,
Louise.
she's sick. Look at her belly button. It's like a little portal.
It's a little butt.
It's weird that there's so much... There's like a shadow around it that nothing else has.
It's a maiden abyss.
Ew. Oh my god, she's even
Okay,
thicker.
someone who made this has no type.
Okay, so if you're not...
Okay, I can see where the AI accusations come from.
I was gonna say, is it the voices?
I think so. The voices, I mean, that's either some really bad voice acting or it could be AI generated voices.
not
Who knows
eclipse.
anymore?
Who can say?
Okay, now compare that short clip and how they reacted to it to just a video from here. Haha, funny! It's pretty clear that there is more substance to Saber Sparks content here. There's pausing and comments about what they're seeing. There isn't this big divide of clip plus laugh. Not only does my definition help clarify which kind of content we're talking about, but also helps explain part of this as well, which we'll get into in a little bit later. Sitting and talking about a clip takes time, as we saw, and delays the next clip from being played or the next part of what they're reacting to. You are there for the memes and to laugh. Finding consistent content that is funny is something that people value, and I have personal experience with this as someone who helps run a meme page that has over 1 million followers on Facebook. I'm not going to advertise it because I'm not a shill. But I've also gotten asked out on dates on college specifically because of my shit posts. I was popular. I got asked the formal, which was, I can't wrap my head around about that, but it's something people value, a sense of humor, and that's part of this reaction content that I'll get into in a little bit later. We're still in the definition stage, but we're going to get in there. And I think the best place to start here is try not to laugh content. Before the days of TikTok and even Vine, so pre-2016, in the case of TikTok, there were try not to laugh videos, which still exist to this day and are still a popular format of video. I went ahead and tried to find some of the earliest versions of this, and I ended up settling on a video from 2008, so roughly 3 years after YouTube was made. And it is basically just one big shit post of classic clips from its era to the music of Tanook Tanook Tune by Dollar Mendy. This video, like every other reaction video I've seen, does not give credit to the creators of the clips. It does not give credit to the music. And it's pretty common for something like this to happen. Now, you could say, hey, it's 2008, it's a different time, and it's a small channel. And to which I would say, not knowing something doesn't mean you didn't do it. But let's pretend that this was a fairly valid defense, even though I don't agree with it. Let's just pretend for a moment that it is. Let's look at, I don't know, maybe a bigger YouTuber who's done something similar and has just grown up to proportions throughout the years since doing that. So let's talk about Markiplier. Certainly is going to be more social media savvy than just the random YouTube video I found in his channel. And his channel size is certainly larger as well. If you look on YouTube right now, there's a playlist of 25 videos, plus an additional 2 that have been privatized under this Try Not to Laugh content playlist. When you look at each individual one, no creator was credited in the videos, and they go back up to 2016, so a little bit after 2008, which arguably makes it worse because stuff like this would have been more commonplace, would have had access to more information as the internet has developed a little bit more. And being that Markiplier had 11 million subscribers and 4 billion views, that does make it a little worse. Now, he's grown since that time quite substantially, making it to 35.7 million subscribers, which, by the way, makes him a top 100 YouTuber going by sub count and has over 20 billion views as of writing of this video. Now, he had been on the platform for 4 years at the time of that first Try Not to Laugh content video, so certainly had experience. That's one US presidential term for reference, or your entire high school years, or college career potentially as well, if you're just trying to get for a bachelor's and you did it in 4. This compiling of funny videos does take a lot of work, but cannot exist without something to compile. There are plenty of other YouTubers and VTubers who do this. For example, a YouTuber called Jimmy here, who rose to fame due to Vine, the precursor of TikTok, and the VTuber Affiliate, who also make these kind of videos today. This form of content is so common, there are copies of it, or reposts if you want to think of it that way. For example, let's look at a third YouTuber here, and we'll come back to the previous two I mentioned in a bit. The VTuber Shy Lily. She has a video reacting to memes on YouTube, and I originally found this clip when I was looking for some examples on a sub-channel called Eclipso, which is not affiliated with Shy Lily, that has 20,000 subs, that has a clip of her reacting to a compilation of memes, as she calls it in that.
It's meme time! Shut up!
So, best case scenario, you have a repost of a repost. And at worst, it is just content thievery, bootleggery. You would think it would end there, but I did some digging, and it's just a collection of memes. If you go to the original video that Shy Lily reacts to, you do get a link, and it's a link to this website called Pastebin. So it's a little sketchy, and from there you get a list. I want to take a moment here and let's think out all the steps that were required to find this list. You would have had to, provided we started with the Eclipso video, you would have had to find the video with Shy Lily, which usually isn't too hard, but she doesn't put what video she's reacting to, so you have to look at the original title, and part of it's cut off because of her VTuber model, and then from there figure out if that's the same video, and then in there go into the description, copy and paste that sketchy link into a web browser to get the list. And by the way, that list was just a link to Twitter and Reddit meme pages. So not even necessarily the original content creator. It's much better than no credit at all, I might say. But still, would you have done that? Would you have taken the several minutes of sleuthing to figure out what the original content was and go, haha, funny? No, you would not. It's pretty clear in order to get these, you have to dig deep, which is why these content creators do not get new subscribers or followers to their pages. Jack's Films, on his channel, Jack is a Nerd, talked to several creators, one of which, who is fairly small, had content taken from them and saw no increase into their channel size. And this is one of the reasons. We'll come back to this later for more reasons why this doesn't occur, but there's another instance in this interview I want to talk about where I talked to a much larger YouTuber and something that happened to them. The interview also talks to other creators like Solid JJ, who makes some content on YouTube, which is just basically memes with the big meme text, and he kind of just talks through a little silly story on it. Had someone just re-upload their videos on TikTok and other places, which is just clear content theft, just a straight repost. Nothing else was changed. And when confronted with this, it was called a fan page. And, you know, it's nice to have fans and whatnot, but that doesn't stop what you did. It doesn't stop becoming content theft if you just call it a fan page, because you're clearly taking views away from the original creator, which is kind of opposed to supporting them and being a fan of their creation. But it does bring up a pretty important question. How much needs to be changed for the content being posted to be different? How much needs to change for it to be transformative? The question of the ship of Theseus goes back to ancient Greece and effectively boils down to this. How much of the ship of Theseus needs to change before the ship becomes something else, something new? For example, if I just pull off a board, put a new one on, use the same nail, is it the same ship? If I do it with a nail, just swap out a nail, is it the same ship or not? I would say, well, yeah, it's going to be the same ship here. There's not a whole lot of utility in it. If I had to call it the Ship of Theseus 2, that would get really annoying every time some basic piece of maintenance happened, and it wouldn't give us really any sort of advantage. My answer or solution, I guess, to this problem would be is so long as there's utility in calling it that, you keep calling the Ship of Theseus the Ship of Theseus. Now, to make this a little bit less philosophical and into something that's easier to digest, let's talk about something we've probably interacted with in our lives. Let's talk about some cars. So let's say you have a vehicle, like a Honda Civic or whatever car you're riding in, driving in, own, whatever, however you interact with the vehicle in your day. I don't know you. Let's say its oil gets changed. Would you stop calling it that Honda Civic? Would it be something new? Would you stop calling it like a cute name? You want to call it like Steve or something? Even though that's not the cutest name. Well, no, it'd still be the same thing. If you changed its color, no, that doesn't really do that. You know, let's say you cheat on your girlfriend or whatnot, or your boyfriend, whatnot, and they key up your car so the paint's gone. It's still the same car. It's a little scratched up right now, so you're kind of mad that they damaged your car, but it's still the same thing. And there's a lot of utility doing that. They did this to this, and we can preconceive what this idea is without having actually seen it if you go to tell someone, like maybe like the police, because they damaged your vehicle. But let's take another example here. Let's say you're driving down the highway and bam, accidents happen and it's totaled. Now, you end up going in and fixing it up, and would it be the same at this point? Would it still be the same vehicle? I would say yes. And here's why. There's a bit of utility that is still gained that's pretty important for the driver or any buyer or seller that might interact with this car. For vehicles that have been repaired to, be more usable after being totaled, it has something what's called the salvage title, which tells us about its history and any risks that might happen from owning or driving that vehicle. That's pretty useful information, which means I would probably still want to call it the same car, because if it was something different, it would be very hard to look this up. There'd be a detachment between the two objects, because we'd be calling them something different, even though it's just easier to conceptualize it as the same thing through a history. Now, let's take one last example. Let's say it's still salvaged, it goes to the junkyard, and someone says, hey, my door's kind of janky right now, and they go to the junkyard, and for whatever reason your door still works. They pop it off, put it on their car. Does that new car become something new? No, it's just a door. That's not the whole part of it. It's kind of nice for it to know, hey, this is where this came from and whatnot. It's part of the door's identity, but not the vehicle's. So there's no utility in transforming it into that something new. Now, The reason why I bring this up is because there's a lot of instances online where if you just re-upload some content and then add your face to it, that's pretty similar to one of these examples, like just repainting the car. Is it something new? This analogy helps us relate to this Honda Civic example that I had with the vehicle. Be like, well, no, I wouldn't say it here, and this is pretty analogous to this, so I would also say no here. It's a lot easier to conceptualize material things rather than these bigger social ideas. So by being able to digest it in a more physical sense, my hope is to help give another tool to help digest some of this later content that's going to be happening. Now, of course, this doesn't give us an exact answer as to what's going to be transformative to it, but it still does give us this critical thinking, this tool to help digest this as well as any current rules that still exist. And it's at this point we should probably talk about what transformative and copyright law looks like. In the United States, copyright law, transformative use, or transformation is a type of fair use that builds on copyrighted work in a different manner or for a different purpose from the original, and thus does not infringe its holder's copyright. Looking further into Section 107 of the Copyright Act, there are 4 main parts to it. Number 1. Purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is for a commercial nature or for a non-profit educational purpose. Number 2, the nature of the copyrighted work. Number 3, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. And 4, the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. That's a lot, so let's kind of look at each of these as a part. So starting with the first point, according to copyright.gov, courts look at how the party claiming fair use is using the copyrighted work and are more likely to find non-profit, educational, and non-commercial uses to be fair. Now, if you're thinking, hey, we can generalize this to be like, oh, it's not educational and it's for profit, then it's going to be violating the copyright law. And well, as Legal Eagle would say, it depends. Instead, courts will balance the purpose and character of the use against the other factors in addition to how transformative it is. Transformative uses are those that add something new with a further purpose or different character and do not substitute for the original use of the work that was used relates to the copyrighted's purpose of encouraging creative expression. Thus, using a more creative or imaginative work, such as a novel, movie, or song, is less likely to support the claim of fair use than using a factual work, such as a technical article or news item. In addition, use of unpublished work is less likely to be considered fair. The third factor, the amount and substantiability of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, courts tend to look at both the quantity and quality of the copyrighted material that was used. If the use includes a large portion of the copyrighted work, fair use is less likely to be found. If the use employs only a small amount of copyrighted material, fair use is more likely. That said, some courts have found use of an entire work to be fair under certain circumstances, and in other contexts, using even a small amount of copyrighted work was determined to be not fair because the selection was important or the, quote, heart of the work. The last factor, effect upon the potential market or value of the copyrighted work, courts review whether and to what extent the unlicensed use harms the existing or future market of the copyright's original work. In assessing this factor, courts consider whether the use is hurting the current market for the original work, for example, by displacing sales of the original, and or whether the use could cause substantial harm if there were to become widespread. Now, again, this was a lot. Go back, review some of it if you want. I'll try and break it down a little bit more, but I figured let's just apply this to an example and we can relate back to these separate points and kind of break down what some of this means with some extra details to help contextualize this even more. So let's take, for example, Digital Circus. Super popular YouTube show, has hit a lot of views in a very, very short amount of time. In its entirety, it is 25 minutes and 45 seconds long. VTuber Fillion reacted to this and can be seen on the channel Fillion Clips, and the entire clip contains the whole video including the credits, and the entire length of her video is 31 minutes and 35 seconds. So that's a total of an extra 5 minutes and 50 seconds added on effectively. That would mean 81% of that clip is just the show. When we look at the amount and substantiality, that would not look good. Of course, there were instances where you can use the entire thing and it just works, as I mentioned when I was reading out the legalese of this. But there's one good example here of a court case that I think will help contextualize this and help solidify our answer that we're forming. If we look at Roger versus Coons, there's an image of two people holding a bunch of really cute doggos sitting next together on a bench, and then someone made a statue of just that. I'll put an image up here too if it's not already there. The court found the similarities between the two images to be too close and that a typical person would be able to recognize the copy. Kuhn's defense was rejected under the argument that he could have used a more generic source to make the same statement without copying Rogers' work. Kuhn's was forced to pay a monetary settlement to Rogers, aka the copies were too similar, so it had to pay for copyright infringement. Building off of that decision, if a viewer watched it on that stream, they wouldn't be likely to rewatch the original on the content owner's channel Glitch. Bare minimum, you generate money from views, so you're not getting any money from that view, and you're not getting a view, which is a pretty important metric for pushing stuff into whatever the YouTube algorithm is, and any of those other metrics could potentially snowball. Now this is, you can't necessarily think of this as one view, but the viewers that watched it with her, which is several thousands, tens of thousands of people, and anyone who wasn't on the live stream and goes back and watches it through that channel, because she did live stream this with her Twitch chat. Changing metrics like this could affect funding for the show because it might not look as popular as it was, even though it is an indie project. That might mean they won't commit to as many resources into it, and could affect how it performs, its release schedule, anything like that, which can have monetary involvement. And there's something I want to highlight here when they're watching all of this. They can't talk the entire time during it, because then it's not a watch party. It's more of a backdrop while you're talking about the show that you're reacting to, and that's not really a watch party. So naturally there's going to be dead air, so you get to digest and watch the show or whatever other clip or video you're going to be doing. But in this case, Digital Circus, it really highlights why live reactions on sites like Twitch and Kick and another streaming service might not be possible, looking at how much of it you're taking, the substantiality, the length of the clip. In this case, the entirety. When watching something, like I said, there's gonna be dead air. It's just what happens. You might need to get a drink of something. You might have to go to the bathroom, or there just might not be anything to say. There might not be anything to react to, so you have to wait for that to happen. This directly conflicts with how fair use works, where you're supposed to take the minimal amount of what you would need to be reacting to. This means you're not making any discretionary choice as to what you need to show, republish, repost, etc. You're just doing the whole thing, the whole shotgun spread. This also creates a problem where to react to something like creators are doing, you can't plan for what the minimal amount is, because if you haven't watched it, you haven't watched it. You don't know what the bare minimum is. You don't know what the heart of the show is, what's essential. You're going in blind. That's the whole point. You would have to plan out what you need to do, which, like I said, doesn't work. This also leads to the next issue of how creators earn a living: views. When looking at if it's nonprofit or educational, it can be struck out that it's educational. When examining if it is nonprofit, a quick look at her channel and stream shows a merch store and that she actively posts a lot of videos, a lot of content. If there are any doubts if this is monetized or not, the Chrome plugin vidIQ shows that her channel is monetized, which is pretty good evidence on top of that merch store that she's doing this for money, making it even less likely that she is not infringing on copyright law, in my opinion, especially if you consider the Twitch stream revenue on top of the YouTube video and that the clip channel is also monetized. And with that point, we get to our last one that we have not examined: the degree to which the work that was used relates to the copyright's purpose in encouraging creative expression. She does add commentary, so that is some benefit to her. It's not just a straight repost. The last point we have not examined is the degree to which the work was used relates to the copyright's purpose of encouraging creative expression. She does add commentary throughout the video, some of which is above surface level comments like saying, "Hey, the animation looks smooth," or reading a word on the screen. This would most likely be the best defense, in my opinion, for fair use. Like I said, not a lawyer, not even trying to be one. I'm just reading what the government posted about the law. But would be very dependent on how the court and jury's perception of the commentary would be. When looking at the answer of the ship of Theseus and this example through the law, this does seem to be similar in nature and therefore would be reasonable. US law, of course, is not the only place with copyright law, but YouTube does have its HQ in the US, so it makes the most sense to look at it here, especially with the fact that it's a large audience as well. Let's take a few more examples, just super fast, kind of like a lightning round, just to help contextualize it so we have more than one example to work with here. So in chapter 1, I had some nice game content that I was reacting to myself here. What happens if we put that same footage out right now and we don't react to it? We just repost it here on the screen. Is that transformative? No, obviously not. If you said yes, go rewatch chapter 4 or you're a troll. But let's take another example here. Let's say I'm on the screen and I had to go to the bathroom and I just walk away and immediately go over to Assist the Sniper Wolf. Sorry, wrong clip. Does this become transformative? No. What is being added? What's being changed? Nothing in that criteria that we just got done talking about makes this any better. Let's say we add a face cam to this. Does that make it any different? Make it any better? No, it doesn't make it any better at all. Doesn't matter what you do here. It's gonna be the same for the reasons I've highlighted before and for what you're seeing on screen. It's just them watching a clip, and it doesn't matter what site it's on, whether it's Kick, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, any of the other social media sites. You know all of them. There's so many. It doesn't matter. But this does beg the question: why watch these videos on someone else's channel when you could just watch the original on your own? A lot of big name streamers and YouTubers have talked about their experiences with fans in real life and part of the community that comes with it and their interaction on a social level. Channels like Alphared and other big name YouTubers usually end up talking about parasocial relationships, and before we really start digging into it, we should probably define what a parasocial relationship is. These are one-sided relationships where the viewer extends emotional energy, interest, and time, while the other party, the persona, YouTuber, streamer, etc., is completely unaware of the other's existence. The most common kinds are with celebrities, sport teams, television stars, but like I said, in our case, it's YouTubers, Twitch streamers, etc. There is a fair amount of literature about this phenomenon, and every study, and I mean literally every study I've read about this, talks about a study done by Horton and Wohl in 1956. This is pretty well documented and fairly understood phenomenon. A kind of summary of what this study said is a bond of intimacy is developed with the media personalities through shared experiences existing only through viewing the persona or personality over time. As time goes on, predictability about the character is increased, the character is reliable, the fan is loyal, as Horton and Wohl said in their study. Horton and Wohl explained they know such a persona in somewhat the same way they know their chosen friends, through direct observation and interpretation of their appearance, their gestures and voice, their conversation and conduct in a variety of situations. The typical relationship model you might see with becoming friends starts with the amount of communication, which leads to liking the person, which leads to intimacy, and therefore a relationship of importance. The parasocial version is online exposure, which leads to attraction, which leads to parasocial interaction, which leads to a relationship of importance. This is according to Development of Parasocial Interaction Relationships by Rebecca B. Rubin and Michael P. McHugh. In another article and / study titled Parasocial Interaction in the Digital Age, an examination of relationship building and the effectiveness of YouTube celebrities by Leslie Rasmussen, asks several research questions. One of them being, do parasocial interactions occur between the viewer and the YouTube celebrity? Its findings is, out of 143 participants, found a significant association between the YouTube celebrity popularity and the viewer feeling as if the celebrity was their friend, which is backed up through some more statistical analysis. I won't go too deep into that. I want to keep this video very brief and short. Don't look at the timestamp. Both of these studies seem not only to support the existence of parasocial relationships, but also show that it exists in newer media like YouTube and Twitch, which obviously didn't exist in the 50s. And just to drive this home even more in an honors thesis statement, just in case you're unfamiliar with an honors thesis statement, it's someone who graduated college and got their thesis published, so usually on the higher quality of this, but we're still talking about a bachelor's level rather than a PhD, which we've covered a little bit before, but I'm mentioning this because I thought they made some really good points and didn't want to just steal their words. So in their thesis statement called The Parasocial as an Indication of the Desire for Unmediated Interactions on Twitch by Julian Pavogel, and they mention that the proximity of live streaming offers serves the viewer because they finally get the chance to be close to their favorite media figure, who may have admired them from a distance in other forms of media. After all, until social media came along, there was no way that any audience member could talk to the person on screen through the media itself. But even while viewers can easily reach celebrities and influencers with a quick comment or direct message, there's still a considerable distance in the relationship between the media figure and the viewer. Now, for anyone who hasn't been on Twitch or other streaming services, you can usually send some money and there'll be a message that a bot will basically read to everyone on the stream, including usually directed directly at the streamer. Sometimes you can go chat to chat interactions, but mainly with the Twitch streamer. In short, it's easier to interact with a Twitch streamer than an actor like Mark Hamill, for example. With Mark, you would have to find him in real life on Earth, so there's a geographical restriction onto this, and then be able to walk up to them, so no security or anything like that, and then actually talk. On Twitch and other streaming platforms, you just have to make an account, and you can just send some money and it'll just read it for you. This clearly makes it easier to interact with the persona. The paper later states that the social interaction is almost face-to-face and offers two-way interaction between the viewer and the streamer in an immediate and direct replies, just like this.
Have you heard the wonderful news? I have now become the main character. If you do not believe me, check the Peggle leaderboards.
Oh yeah, somebody beat in the speedrun leader.
The streamer can even cultivate reciprocated feelings. This intuitively makes sense. If a viewer has a text-to-speech response and the streamer laughs, just like we saw that little chuckle from Doug in that clip, there's a clear two-way interaction and an emotional response, that being laughter. Take, for example, you're on a call with a friend and you tell the exact same joke you might have told that you would have said on stream. Is this interaction different? No, it is functionally similar. Going back to the previous paper, it mentioned specifically that most of these elements, save for reciprocation, may have existed separately in older forms of media, for say, a comment section. But on Twitch, they exist in one. This makes Twitch the most social rather than parasocial platform to date. Media, which in the past has celebrated so much distance between the viewer and the media figure, is finally offering a large amount of proximity between the two parties via Twitch. Twitch is changing the landscape in how media consumes and media figures interact by bringing them closer together. So let's take a little bit of break from some of the studies right now and really dig into some examples that we might be seeing into this. It's not to talk theory and whatnot and say fun academic words, but let's get into some examples. This can be seen a lot in Doug's streams where he has A crew versus Z crew. This is where he assigns teams based on their usernames to a team and they compete between each other in a game. For example, it can be seen in his streams where Twitch chat plays a game together to do something like fly a plane in GTA. He is not the only person on Twitch who has done this form of content. Doug is the person, from my understanding, who's the one who popularized it. But let's just get a quick, another fun example here from Raisefire.
Today, I'm going to be throwing my hat in the ring as a top contender as well, and I'll be doing it in the most highly skilled way possible. Today, I'll be playing a board of Mario Party Superstars, but with a catch. Well, actually 4 catches. To start, I'll be playing the game blindfolded. To give you an example of what that's like, here's a look at what it'll be like for me during the game.
Start. Finish.
But that's not all. Player 2 will be controlled by my Twitch chat. By typing messages in chat, they'll be able to navigate menus, roll dice blocks, use items, and even play in minigames. Player 3 will be weighted random inputs that are being sent directly to my console. Essentially, a simple Mario Party AI. He really likes to spam stickers. And finally, Player 4 will be the control variable of the experiment, Mario Party's own built-in easy CPU.
It's him versus Twitch chat plus the 2 other things, but I want to focus on the first 2 for a little bit. He's playing a game with his chat, just like you might play a game with a friend. All of these examples have been of Twitch chat playing games, which isn't exactly reaction content. This does help show that there is some sort of parasocial relationship going on behind all of what the papers are saying. And it might not inherently look like it, but because we've been able to see these interactions between Twitch streamer and Twitch chatter, you can start to see what kind of interactions might be happening and then look at it in other streams for reaction content. Jimmy here, a person I've mentioned in the past in this video essay, is a weekly posting on Wednesdays in homage to his It's Wednesday, My Dudes Vine. On this Wednesday, he posts regularly a You Laugh, You Lose video or a variation on the format. As of writing, there are 184 of these videos, which does not include the every time I laugh, I lose $100, if I laugh, the video ends, with eye tracker and You Laugh, You Leave video series, so those other variations of the formats I was talking about in the Laugh You Lose videos. There is an assembly of clips which are sent in his Discord. Mods make sure the content is safe to the stream, and the entirety of the rules it will show down here. I joined his Discord and this is what it has. YL, YL, you laugh, you lose. One of the first things you might look at when you look at these rules is people are submitting it. It could be your own video, but it could just be someone else's. Mainly the person who made the content that Jimmy would be reacting to is never within that transaction. So we're getting back to this problem I've been talking about. If it's their own video between Jimmy and them, obviously if you're sending it, you're consenting in some form of way, but when it's not, when you're not involved in that process, not as clear. The community is interacting with Jimmy here to curate their content, sometimes with the moderator, but if it gets to his stream, they are in a way interacting because they'll be like, hey, I sent that video. That's me. Especially if you're one of the people who gets money if you make him laugh from those videos. There's definitely interaction there. This does really highlight what the paper demonstrates, especially when you look at the line. Twitch is changing the landscape in how media consumers and media figures interact by bringing them closer together. By looking at these videos, you can tell there are inside jokes between him and the community. There are straight edits of past videos of him made into short clips of previous episodes. This really helps solidify these claims and give a little bit of breath of life to them. Before we talk about the Laugh You Leave series, I would like to talk about a section of the paper for the last time, I swear. Much of the literature surrounding live streaming suggests that the main motivation to tune into live streams is to fulfill a social need. If people are tuning into Twitch to fulfill such a need, Twitch must offer some interaction that is social enough to fulfill it. That is, it must offer some interaction that is close enough to feel like actually socializing if viewers are consistently seeking it as a source of socialization. The best way to explain and describe the You Laugh, You Leave series is to have Jimmy here himself explain it. Let's jump to a clip.
What is going on, my dudes? Welcome back to If You Laugh, You Leave the Couch. I'm live here at twitch.tv/Jimmy here with my chat going absolutely wild.
This perfectly shows the view Twitch chat is watching these with you. This is a weekly activity you are doing with them, just like you do with a game night with friends or watching a weekly sports game with your friends, etc. If you are doubting because people are on YouTube watching and you don't have to have the same line of connection, then I'll show you that in every description of his videos, he has drop a comment with which video made you laugh for a chance to get a heart on it, which is a little special reaction you can do as a content creator on comments. This would also make someone feel like they're more connected to Jimmy here because he read your comment and he liked it. There is this connection between you and them. And another honors thesis called Authenticity's Tick-Tocking Clocks, Exploring the Implications of Sophisticated Tools for Performing Authenticity on TikTok by Gold Grace. It also highlights that parasocial relationships give the illusion of intimacy and make them more authentic, especially in the conclusion it states. As they discuss their TikTok tactics, habits, and audience interactions, the language they invoke to do so provides insight into the communicative norms on the platform and the savvy illusions of intimacy it enables. As I used in my previous example of watching the Digital Circus with Fillion's channel, you are not watching a video of Fillion reacting to the show, you are watching it with her. You aren't watching Markiplier or Jimmy here trying not to laugh, you're doing it with them. You are a participant. The videos are called Try Not to Laugh and don't mention the streamer's or YouTuber's name in it. The concept has been and always was doing that with them, or as the first paper puts it, those who desire social relationships with media figures can perhaps find them through a web of chat messages and live streams. If viewers are looking for entertainment and a new friend, they should look no further than live streaming on Twitch. Believe it or not, there has been a market for this before YouTube. The Mystery Science Theater 3000 show, which premiered in 1989, does exactly this, where Joel Hodgson, a comedian, watches a B-movie with his robot friends. The whole concept of the show is to watch bad movies together. Its first show was from 1989 to 1996, and then it had a second show revamp on the Sci-Fi Channel from 97 to 99, had its own Netflix show from 2017 to 2018, and now has its own Kickstarter on Gizmolex, as well as streaming on Twitch with short clips of it on YouTube. This show could be considered an early version of this content. It ending up on Twitch is no coincidence. In a peer-reviewed research paper called Building Viewer Engagement Through Interaction Rituals on Twitch.tv by Henrik Joden and Jacob Strandl, they specifically mention interaction rituals and how they produce positive emotional associations with the group and its symbols, which in turn contributes to group identification, reaffirming values and building motivation to revisit the ritual itself. Both there at the live stream, creating a shared mood, which is a bit of a feedback loop, which leads to collective experiences, which creates an outcome of group identification, positive emotions, shared symbols, and or shared values. The article goes into how these mechanisms work, but the main focus here is that there is one, and that this will keep viewers in their ecosystem and therefore would make it even harder for content creators whose work is being reacted to get that community. They do not have those mechanisms because they're not there. They're happening somewhere else with a different group of people. This, coupled with the social rituals the channels have, synergizes and helps them retain views. In our earlier example with Jiminy here, this is evidence of the symbols and social ritual. In his channel, the red tomato emoji, for example, is a joke about him getting very red while trying not to laugh. Symbols like this are seen in other communities like Shy Lily's heart eyes and Womp Womp, Markiplier's press B to blow, and Herblower, Point Crow, kicking puppies, and tax evasion. An inside joke, not a real thing that he did. XQC and Monkeywa and El Goblino. The list goes on. Every streamer, YouTuber, etc. has these relationships that are very well established. And some of these might be going, what's that mean? That's the point. If you're not watching them and don't have a long history with them, you don't know what these are. You're not part of the community. This is confirmed in the article titled The Development of Parasocial Relationships on YouTube by Kate Curtin, Nina O'Brien, and Daya Roy, and Linda Dam, where it states the following. The revised model predicted a number of direct effects. First, H1, their first hypothesis, predicted that increased exposure to YouTube leads to increased parasocial relationships, such that individuals who report higher levels of YouTube consumption reported higher levels of parasocial relationships with a YouTube personality. Throughout the video so far, I've made mention of YouTube and Twitch chat as separate concepts. They're separate channels. TikTok being another one of these things. Kick being another one of these places where reaction content happens. And there's a reason for that. I've been building up this idea of social communities and how Twitch chat kind of has this own little community and YouTube does. And there's some overlap between people being in both YouTube and Twitch chat, but they've been mostly separate here. And the reason why I've been doing that and talking about people being locked into ecosystems and how it creates this dissonance between, or separation between, the original content and the reactor is because of something that is oh so important here: how social media sites make money. Money is one of the most classic incentives for why people or companies do something. In a lot of these examples, there's been content from sites like TikTok and Twitch out onto YouTube. This isn't the only method of content chasing social media platforms, like Twitch streamers reacting to TikToks or YouTube videos. Either or, you can mix and match however you want. This does bring up the question of why do social media platforms allow this? After all, they're probably going to want to be protective of their site. Let's start with YouTube, for example. It's where we're watching this video, and of course, it's probably one of the most prevalent or well-known sites. YouTube says its main source of revenue is advertising. It also makes money from its monthly subscription businesses, such as YouTube Premium. It also gets shares of revenue from super chats, channel memberships, and merchandise. If you're unfamiliar with super chats, you just pay a little bit of money, it's a highlighted message, and YouTube gets a little bit of the cut, and then the person you sent it to on their channel also gets some of that money. Channel memberships is kind of like another form of subscription too, if you're not familiar with that. This means the longer you're on the site, the more money YouTube makes. You're not only going to be more likely to spend money because, hey, you don't want to see those advertisements. There's just so many memes about how many advertisements there are on YouTube. So it's just like, well, I could just spend a little money. I don't have to worry about it. It's just a little monthly subscription, just gets taken out. I don't have to do it. I get to watch more content that I like, which is why I'm here. It can also help push for higher traffic to help encourage users to get their YouTube Premium for more revenue. Higher traffic videos are going to highlight or attract more prevalent advertisers who can want that money. Just think about the Super Bowl. There's a lot of eyes on there, so people pay a lot of money per ad. YouTubers also get a split of the premium money, so it's not 100% into YouTube's pocket. And it gets split up according with how much content the premium viewer viewed per channel. It gets a little messy with the math here, so I'm not going to get into it. But let's look at the next site, because obviously this isn't the only site that happens. Twitch isn't really that different and earns money from its user subscription fees, merchandise sales, offering bits, which is Twitch's digital currency, and running video advertisements. Twitch's longer content, which takes hours, gives it plenty of events that make site for the money to occur. Very long streams can make for a lot of ads to be shown. Now, not everyone has the time for watching like an 8-hour speed run or isn't awake at that time due to living somewhere far away from where the streamer is. This usually results in an edited down version of the stream onto YouTube. This benefits the streamer with being able to get content from short-term and long-term views, as well as marketing. Their channel in multiple locations helps bring an audience. It helps YouTube because there's more optimized content for its platform, and Twitch as an advertisement for its site for people who would like to see the whole content, want to see all of the speed runs, them cursing, them just being like, oops, I gotta restart, I really messed this up, or just anything else that happens there for the whole content that might be removed from an edited down version of it. There are even memes of this. For example, Raise Fire, Pangea Panga, Carl Sagan 42 mention in all of their streams about Twitch chat being different than tubers, meaning YouTubers. And just to give you an idea what this is like, here's a clip that highlights this idea excellently from Carl Sagan 42.
I'm going in door number 3, motherfuckers! Hold on. Dave, you have to remove the, hold on. I need my editor to remove what actually happened when I went into that. Okay, that is for Twitch's eyes only. Only Twitch can know about Lava Secret. All right? Only Twitch can know about Lava Secret.
Encouraging YouTube viewers to watch their live content, or jokes about Twitch viewers being more hardcore, having to watch the content, not just the edited down fun parts. Now, for a lot of my examples, I've been using gaming, and you're like, hey, this is a reaction content video, and there's a reason why I've done this, and I haven't explicitly said it. There is a lot of overlap between the gaming community and reaction content, not explicitly for this, like XQC, Sissa Sniper Wolf had big platforms in gaming and then went into reaction content, but it doesn't really matter what subject you're talking about here for how these companies make money and the parasocial relationships that develop between them, because it's all interchangeable. For example, like I used with XQC, Monkeywa being one of their big calls for the community. It doesn't matter if they're in the reaction content or whatnot, they're part of the community. They're probably going to reference it. Sometimes you'll even get references outside of groups, like Hijo with Elfarad gets mentioned in some of the other channels that are loosely related to him, where he's kind of like part of it, but he's not the guy running it. And like with TikToks and other things they might be reacting to, other media they might be reacting to, you're still gonna get the same thing. They might, instead of watching the whole speed run or whatnot, they want to see all of the TikToks that are being presented. It's really interchangeable. And following up on TikTok, we should probably talk about how they also make money and how they factor into this part of the equation. TikTok operates and benefits in a similar way. It makes its money from advertisements, and people put short clips of their content onto the site as well. Its clips are a little bit over a minute and optimized for doom scrolling, so you can just watch one more TikTok. They're short, just one more, and then I'll go to bed. Just another one. And it's way later than you expected, and oh, it's 2 a.m. I needed to get to bed early because I got work in the morning. This model helps create more room for ads to play and thus make more money for TikTok, is what you might think. It's just to put in ads. Hank Green on Hank's channel actually kind of goes over some of how he makes some money through different social media sites, and it includes information about Meta, so Instagram Reels, It mentions that its clips are 1 minute and 30 seconds long, so YouTube can only do 1 minute, so there's a little bit of a separation to help keep and protect this information. But the reason why TikTok operates this way to go through it is they're going to have their own marketplace and use this as a way of selling to keep people on the site. I'll try to make sure to have his video. It's a lot longer, or not a lot longer, but it's too long to just display one clip of it to really get the gist of it, and I'll put that in the description. For streamers, as mentioned before, all of these sites interact to help build media presence and help make their brand. This is great for streamers and YouTubers, but how does it logically affect the individual sites? I've been avoiding this person as much as possible, except for, I guess, the intro. YouTuber Sniper Wolf is pretty controversial and has made many videos of, quote, reacting to TikToks. Almost all their uploads are 8 to 10 minutes because of ads. You get that sweet mid-roll ad once you hit that 8-ish minute mark. By having the content on YouTube, YouTube gets those ad rolls, and TikTok doesn't make money from that. Her channel is about 34.1 million subscribers as of writing this in November of 2023, probably fallen. Each video after a week has about 1 million views, and she uploads daily, so that's roughly 7 million views a week, give or take. And with Parasocial relationships, that from her massive audience, she gets constant flow of viewers onto the site to pay for YouTube Premium and watch ads. YouTube's either going to get money from the premium stipends, or they're going to get money from all those ads that people want to watch. Not necessarily going to stick through the whole thing. I can't really look at that part of the metrics there, but there's usually an ad before that plays, or if you just watch enough of the content, you get the YouTube Premium money anyways. So it's just going to keep people engaged and watching the site. If you do not believe this is a good strategy, look no further than Kick, a streaming service that paid XQC, a gamer with a large following of over 2 million followers on YouTube and over 500,000 followers on Kick, got a $100 million streaming contract for 2 years. This is more money than LeBron James was paid for a 2-year contract for the Lakers in the same year. His payout was only $97.1 million. Not much more, but still more than what LeBron James was paid. The first month after his announcements, Kick's stock value increased. Its value seemed to rise after this announcement, but has since fallen, which might also be due to some of the associations with XQC. Speaking of these last two controversial figures, there's some issues with reaction content that we have to talk about at this point. There have been mentions so far as to theft and a hint at general plagiarism with reaction content. And just to really get the idea of why this is wrong, it's best to start out with it being done correct so we can really appreciate how bad and wrong some of these reaction content videos are. So, in the best case scenario, you have the original content creator who made whatever piece of media that the other content creator wants to react to or use for whatever reason. During this contact, there'd be some sort of agreement to where both parties would mutually benefit, and then the content would be produced. This is done correctly. Nothing wrong has happened. The next logical step as to wrongness would be they just take the content and they both end up benefiting anyways. And as studies have suggested and have been mentioned throughout this video, that's not likely to happen. And at this point, I would like to take a moment and look at a real world example rather than just talk shop, talk some theory. So let's look at this TikTok by Sleazy. Here's the TikTok.
Because it's not turning on, and it's actually really cool how it opens up, because it opens up like this, like a cool book, right? And
Now that you've seen this, this is very, very similar to the bomb602.com.
Here because it's not turning on, and it's actually really cool how it opens up, because it opens up like this, like a cool book, right? And
this TikToker, the bomb602.com, has 4.6 million followers and claims to fix computers for a living. And when you look at the channel at just a brief glance, this looks to be pretty true. Comparatively to Sleazy's channel, they have 10.6k followers, but on the specific TikTok I ended up showing you, they have 1.7 million views on their channel, which is smaller than the 12.6 million the bomb602.com had on their TikTok. This TikTok can be found on one of Sniper Wolf's videos titled People Who Didn't Get What They Expected. We already have content being stolen and then moved over to another platform where it's being stolen again, and this just shows you how easy it is to freeboot / steal content online. Sniper Wolf is not the only person who does this, but is by far one of the largest, if not the largest, offender. And just to make this even more difficult to parse through, when you click on the TikTok, it says original audio. And if you're unfamiliar with video editing software, you basically just drag your video in. It'll have the video feed and the audio feed in separate channels, so it's pretty easy to edit. And you can just delete the audio, import your own, render it, and then upload it. Pretty easy. You don't even have to be particularly good with editing software. It's very easy, trust me.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
And while we're still on the TikTok site, let's just look at how easy it is to impersonate someone else and steal views by looking like someone else, because that's another way to do it. Just take their content and you look similar. I've used Fillion before, and I'm using him again because it was just pretty easy to find this. They're a relatively new VTuber from my understanding, and still pretty prominent in the space. So looking at this photo here, I looked for just Fillion, and we're seeing a bunch of different profiles, a bunch of different followers. Obviously not Fillion is lost because they only have 25, but when you take a look at the profile pics, 5 of them are identical, which makes identifying which one's correct more difficult because you can't do it at a glance, and it's easier just to pass by. Now, if you're going to guess which one's correct, it's not on this screen. When I was able to find it, I only found it because I logged into TikTok. I got a different result set, which is weird. There had some time had passed in between when I first looked and when I signed in. But regardless, that's not a good case for trying to investigate and finding where an original clip came from so you can get credit or contact them. Just to give you an idea of how easy this is to do and how effective it is, Fillion is Lost 2 has a sub count of 62k. Some of their TikToks are over 800,000. Not all of them reach this amount. They mostly stay in the 1,000, but nonetheless still can be rather successful. 800,000 views is a lot of views to theoretically take from the original content creator, which is not fair. Now, we've been talking about taking videos and impersonating. The next scale would be taking a channel. That'd be really crazy if that happened. Nerd City did a big interview with Aussie where they talk about how Sniper Wolf effectively did this.
Taking every idea did well, but because they had more following than me, their video would just get more views, and so people would see their video first and then assume that their video was first.
And obviously here, this is just like we were talking about with Fillion's example with cloning, but it goes much further beyond this. Let's take a look at some of the similarities between Aussie Land's thumbnails and Sniper Wolf's thumbnails.
That would drive me nuts.
It's more than that. It's like, you don't deserve to live because you've stolen from this person and ruined their life. I'm like, I didn't do anything to their life.
So remember earlier on when I said people don't necessarily respond to criticism on this very well. Well, yeah, Ozzy's receiving death threats over this, which is not the mature response. Obviously, I disagree with reaction content. It's why I'm making this, but this is not a mature response. This is not how this should be handled at all. But if you want to be a Sniper Wolf defender here, Nerd City did take a pretty big look at the different thumbnails for this accusation. Let's see what he did just to find things out.
I've actually considered putting like a hidden watermark into thumbnails to see if it.
Well, you've done more than consider it. Maybe, Leah, if you're watching this, you've copied something already that we set a trap. Is there anything that you're doing now or that you could be doing in the future that has its origins with me?
You're too smart for this world.
She's going to be worried. She should be worried about the thousands of videos. Like, she probably doesn't even remember how many times she's copied you. How many times have you noticed that she's copied your thumbnails or a title or whatever? Did you ever bother to count them?
Things that are very obvious, exact replicas, it's minimum 50. But if you're not counting those, up to 200.
Ones where you've got her dead to rights, for sure, 50. And then somewhere it's maybe just coincidental, but it's partial copying, 200.
Just kidding, that's not Sniper Wolf. I'm the real Sniper Wolf. This right here is a paid actress.
In this next example, Nerd City essentially talks about how he experienced someone copying him and some of the issues that he noticed, and noticed some of the similarities that was happening to Ozzyland. Here's the clip.
She did something similar with you, though. In that video where she's accusing you of copying from her, the red thumbnail, she scrolls down, but she didn't scroll down far enough to show that you'd done it first.
Yeah.
She hadn't gone as far as Photoshop a fake proof, but she showed them a fake scroll down through the content.
It's mind games. It's so she scrolled right up until the point before you saw that I had also done a red thumbnail and then stopped. It's just twisted.
Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse here or take too much from Nerd City. You should really take the time to watch that video as well if you're interested in a more in-depth analysis as to everything that happened. I'll make sure that he has a link in the description to his video as well as to everything else that's already had this. Just to show how far this theft can go, here's a clip of Ozzyland talking about her voice.
The ironic thing is, I wanted to separate myself so much from Sniper Wolf that I started forcing myself to not talk like that. And now I don't know how to talk like that anymore. I forgot.
Tragedy. She stole something from you and then wore it out so much that you quit it.
Your voice is part of who you are. It shows you where you're potentially from and gives a lot of character to who you are. It's something voice actors do regularly to help really build their character, to make sure their voice matches the personality of whoever they're playing. So it really, really does stink that this happened to Ozzyland here. Now, of course, all of these are accusations. Nothing's been proven in a court of law or anything. But considering Sniper Wolf's history, who I don't even have the time to get into at this point, and everything that Nerd City found and talked with Ozzyland, my money is that Ozzyland is in the right here. Now, if you thought stealing a channel was kind of the peak as to what this could go, oh no, guy, gal, or non-binary pal, this gets worse. So I'm sitting here, finished writing, and then I went to YouTube. Wanted to take a break, Seeing what I saw didn't make me happy, so I went, you know what, I'll do a little bit of YouTube, watch something funny. And as I'm scrolling through, because my YouTube algorithm's screwed now because I've seen so much of this, XQC did reaction content on Israel airstriking the Gaza Tower after the Hamas attack. And it is so bad. It is simply awful what he said. You know what? I want you to take a moment. Guess what XQC is going to say. Don't have a particularly high bar. It's XQC, remember? And just take a guess. Pause the video. Think about what he might say when an airstrike hits a tower as the reporter is talking about what's happening. Just think. Right? Got your answer locked in? Here's the clip.
Please take cover. If you are in a position to do so safely, you can explain to us what we're happening. If you
Guys, what do they aim at when they do this shit? I don't get it. Do they aim at this particular building, or do they just throw it at random?
Yeah, so probably a lot worse than what you were expecting here. And just a reminder, when I wrote this several months ago, 9,770 people had their last day on Earth unexpectedly without warning, 4,800 of which were children. Oh, by the way, 19,000 people were injured. And in this particular one, it's between 200 to 500 people. Let's not get into the nitty-gritties. It's in the hundreds. It's far too many people. And you could argue XQC has a massive audience. And a lot of people who might not know about it or might not watch the news would be seeing it, and that's a good thing. That's good. That's a very optimistic take at this point. When you have these tight ties with people, you're not necessarily going to look at it with a critical lens. You might see what they're saying and just kind of go with it, agree with it, and might not think about it a whole lot. What he did was trivialize violence when buildings are being destroyed in the background and the reporter's safety is constantly being questioned during this video. Bro, what do they aim at? Ain't gonna do it for me, Chief. That's pretty bad reactions. Quote-unquote reactions at that. He does say other things. I'll give credit where credit's due. Bro, that is crazy. Listen, I didn't have high expectations. I didn't expect some dissection of the geopolitical scenario that's going on, some big numbers, some high-level content here with analytics. It's not for everyone. It's very surface level with XQC, and you know what? There's a limit as to how surface level you can get here. You can't just trivialize this much suffering. And when you think about when this video was posted and when this happened, there was a lot of media focus on this, a lot of attention to this. And XQC has a habit of riding coattails. This was probably for clicks. This was probably for views, in my opinion. That's disgusting, if that's true. And that right there, that is the worst case scenario, where you use your social capital and clout to trivialize events like this just to make a quick buck. I have a pretty decent vocabulary, and I know more than one language, and I still cannot find a word to describe how catastrophically bad this is. So with all this in consideration, we should probably be talking about some solutions. Now, with rampant freebooting, it's very difficult for creators or even large platforms to stop reposts like this, provided they wanted to, which they are incentivized to based on how they make money. And legally speaking, it would be very expensive and time-consuming for content creators to prevent or stop freebooting if they see someone taking it. You'd have to submit a claim, and if your social media platform won't do anything, but you still have the rights to it, then you'd have to get some lawyers involved, and who knows how long that would take. And that's one of the reasons why it thrives. It's very easy to produce on a massive scale, and very difficult to take down and time-consuming, provided you even know that the freebooting is happening. Now, you could argue that the only thing that would have enough resources and time to do so would be some sort of large language model or computer/AI. Now, without making an answer as long as like folding ideas, though I must go up, a lot of AI, such as ChatGPT, is just impersonating data it's seen online. So it's basically hitting the middle button on your phone. It's just predictive text, expecting what's going to happen next. And although they can be useful tools in some scenarios, online platforms like this already have tools like this. There's automated copyright detection that exists on YouTube and presumably on TikTok and these other sites. If you just want a straight example, the best one would be from thebomb602.com example that I brought up earlier where I talked about that original audio source coming from Sleazy. It was the exact same audio from thebomb602.com, which means it doesn't necessarily work there, and there can be ways to disguise it through clever editing tricks. The real way for me to look at this is primarily a social issue. It's why we talked about the ship a thesis and copyright law to really understand what's going, who owns what is fair use to respond to something, and what is just outright theft. Legal terms can, of course, help emphasize what we believe socially, but in the end, it's going to be people seeing what's going on and recognizing what is actual freebooting and using more media analysis to say, hey, this is freebooting. I should probably let my content creator know that this is being stolen. And this is stuff we've seen on YouTube before. And it's starting to get some more traction. There's been a lot of plagiarizing videos where they talk about plagiarism online. This isn't the only one to do it. So if you notice your TikTok being taken or your video or anything else, go in, you can do a copyright claim on YouTube. You notice your creators having this, try and reach out to them in whatever means that they find acceptable. Only do true claims and let them know. We have to work socially together to stop this. Obviously, unsubscribe from any channels that might be doing a lot of this freebooting, and just go. And if you accidentally did it to a channel, don't feel bad. Like, you can't know the entirety of the internet, and it's just up to us and social norms to push forward and stop this from happening. Oh, you're still here. You can go now. The credits, they passed. Have you been watching too many Marvel movies? Fine. Here's one more clip.
I do want to point out as well, the reason why this is also such a difficult thing to talk about is because of the whole way that reaction content works is we are reacting to what's the most viral on the internet. So the ideas are like, they're not our ideas. It's whatever's viral. It's the whole internet's idea of what is popular, right? So like taking ownership of that doesn't work. You can't like watch a movie and then take ownership of watching a movie.